Hi there, so I'm going to do a tutorial about shoulder stability and shoulder positioning and how to try to combat the pain that some people are finding in their shoulders when we're in the strength moves, and also having a look at the wrist positions as well, because a lot of people really struggle with their wrists in plank positions or in side plank positions when the weight is going into the wrists or the shoulders. All right, so let's start focusing on the shoulder position. I'm going to get you to come down to your knees. Okay, so when we are focusing on the shoulders, the first thing that I want to do is think about the chest. So I want to open my chest out. All right, so slightly thinking about the sternum just coming forward, only a tiny bit, not so much that the ribs flare. I want to keep those ribs down, but I'm thinking about opening across the chest. So now what I try to do is I try to imagine that I've got two arrows tattooed on my shoulders and chest. And they start here and they come out, and those arrows turn out, and then they almost hook over my shoulders as if I'm wearing a kind of shoulder strap dress or vest, and that comes over the back of the shoulders. So it's almost feeling of kind of rotating out and opening in that chest area. The straps, or the imaginary straps, come over the back of the shoulders and then down in towards my scapula and my shoulder blades. So then I want to think about the shoulder blades. Now, what I don't want to do is squeeze them really tight and wing the back, okay? That's just tension. It's going to come up into here, into my traps, and I don't want that. So as I've opened out with those arrows, they're hooking up and over the back of the shoulder, and then they soften down. So the shoulder blades are rooting and falling and drawing down the spine. And I'm trying to imagine that those shoulder blades are just softening into a soft V to the base of the spine. So you've got a little pocket here at the base of your pants, and the shoulder blades are just softening down all the way into that little pocket at the back. So it starts here, it reaches out and open, around down the back, and falling in and down the spine. So you've got that lovely open quality in the shoulders and the chest. When that happens, and when you do that, check the positions of your arms. Because often in day-to-day life, you'll find that your hands are almost slightly in front of the body line or in front of the thigh. Now, when you open out and just try and find that lovely rotation, and it's not about holding the position, it's about opening into that position. And then if you find yourself in that position, you'll find that the hands actually track down the sides of the body. Now, I'm not kind of setting myself in that position or forcing into that position. It's gently opening out into that position, and now my arms are in the correct position for a good postural stance. Okay, so holding that or keep retaining that open quality in the shoulders, I'm now going to drop, making sure the ribcage is dropped, drawing in through this deep abdominal wall. So the whole of this wall, right down to my pubic bone, is drawing in and just activating, engaging. It's that kind of 30% that we've talked about before, where you're drawing in through those abdominals, obliques are drawing in, so your waist is just drawing in, so that corset that you've got on, whatever you want to think about in terms of visualization, this whole area here is just slightly condensing, slightly drawing in, okay? And those shoulder blades drawing down the spine and a slightly heavy tailbone means that the back is also finding its way into that engagement as well. Hands are down the sides of the legs, and you can really feel that strength and openness in the body. All right, so then you're ready to work. So from here, we need to move the arms, and we need to move the arms whilst keeping that feeling of drawing down and back and through. So I'm just going to draw my sit bones behind me and my arms in front of me. So as I do that, I keep that activation through my trunk and through my belly. I'm reaching the fingertips in one direction, but I'm drawing the shoulder blades still back. So what I don't want to do as I lift, if you can see the difference, is that. Okay, I'm not rolling my spine. Okay, I'm not drawing my shoulders forward. I'm lengthening the spine so it stays in that lengthened position. I am drawing the shoulder blades back and down. My elbows are still trying to slightly rotate inwardly or internally, and my fingertips are reaching in one direction, and my shoulder blades are pulling in the opposite direction. Top of the head is reaching up, tailbone is reaching down, oppositions. So then as I come through, I squeeze my glutes and the little fingers travel back and behind. And I lengthen out and reach back and up. Lengthen out, reach through and back and up. Reach, lengthen, reach through and back and up, and reach, lengthen, and reach through and back and up. Okay, so reach, lengthen and hold. Now here, I want you to think about dropping the hands to the floor, slightly bending into the hips, finding the floor, finding the hands on the floor, and just folding yourself back out into that 4-point kneeling. So then you'll be in a perfect position for your 4-point kneeling. Shoulders over your wrists, knees underneath your hips. Okay, so I'm just going to turn slightly so you can see that I am in that position. Yeah? Good, so we don't want to be out here. We don't want to be under here. Okay? And at the moment, we don't want to be out here or too far in here. Okay? So you want that 4-point kneeling position or box. All right, so here, where is the weight in the hands? So this kind of already comes into the wrists as well. So what we want to do, we want to think about the pads of the hands, all right? So almost a kind of curve around here, that C curve, like I do in the feet, almost like there's a little bit of air underneath that central part of the palm, and then slightly bending the fingers and slightly just pushing the fingertips into the floor, just a tiny, tiny bit, all right? So that's the hands, that's the kind of the positioning of the hands on the floor. That slight pushing in of the fingertips will release the wrists a little bit as well. So what I want to do then is think about the elbows. And the elbows are not turned out towards the side, they're inwardly rotated like we did when we had our arms out in front of us. And so we're just drawing them around and in. So like the elbows are pointing in towards our waist, all right? They are soft, they are not bent, but they're not locked out. So there's a softening in those arms, softening in the elbows. And you're thinking about lifting up and out. Now to do that, I'm sort of slightly thinking about creating space between the chest and the armpit or the bicep, okay? So I'm trying to create space here. And I'm trying to think about lifting up and out of my hands. So if you can, I'm hoping you can get this and see this on camera, but if I push down into those hands and drop and put all my weight in there, okay, I'm heavy and everything is in my wrists and everything, immediately I can feel it all going into my shoulders here. Now just watch as I lift up and out of that position. So to do that, I'm lifting here, I'm using my pecs, I'm using my muscles here, but I'm mainly engaging my abdominal muscles. I'm mainly engaging my back and my shoulder blades. And I'm drawing through. So that's squeezing down of the shoulder blades, the drawing in of the abdominal wall, the pulling in of that pelvic floor, and the feeling and sense of lifting up and out of my hands means that I'm creating a lightness in my hands, okay? So when you're in that position, you should be able to pick up your hands really easily, just touching through, okay? And do it without any feeling of movement through the abdominals, okay, or through the back or through the body. All right, now, the last thing to say about this is that you are also trying to think about creating a kind of barrel underneath yourself. Again, visualization of creating like you've got an arc here and you want to come over that arc. So you're trying to almost reach the chest away from it, not touch it with the sides of the arms. And by creating that sort of space under here that you don't want to fall onto, it helps with that feeling of elevation and lift. So there's quite a lot of sense of drawing away with this space here. Now when you're in that position, once you've found that and you can retain that position, it means that when you're coming out and up and using the more weight or pushing more weight into those hands, actually you can keep it out of the shoulders and therefore you can keep it out of the wrists. So those knees can come down nice and light. Inhale, exhale, and down. So here, it's this part of the body that I use, engage, to help me come up and help me hold that position. Now, if you can see, if I start to push down into my shoulders, you'll see the difference. So rather than using my abdominals, now I'm going to push down into the shoulders. Okay, and then I can barely talk, it's all in here, and it's hurting, okay? And I don't want to be in that position. I can't lift my hands up from that position. It's too difficult. I've got too much weight pouring down and in, all right? So you're thinking of lifting up and out, creating that barrel that you're kind of leaning over, softness in the elbows, turning those elbows in, drawing in through that abdominal wall, lifting up and in through the pelvic floor, and the shoulder blades reaching down the back. So the last thing to say is the neck and the head. We don't want to drop the head down here. It needs to be in line. We don't want to be looking down too much with the chin, and we don't want to be lifting up and crunching the back of the neck. So the gaze is about towards the front point of your mat. Yeah, and you're looking down towards that, and that you want to kind of think about your spine and your neck being lovely and in alignment. All right. So now, what about the wrists? The wrists, all of that stuff that I've just talked about comes into play with the wrists as well. All right. So lifting up and out, that feeling of lightness in the hands is always going to help. But the wrists can take quite a lot of strain. The thing to do is not to avoid using them, but actually just do shorter periods of time when you are using them and start to build that strength, okay? So one of the things you can do is you can roll your mat from the front, getting quite a good sizable roll back, and then just having the hands or the pads of the hands on the mat and the fingertips on the floor. And all that does is it just creates a little bit less of a crease and a fold in the wrist joint, so that there's a little bit more length through the hand there. Other things that you can do, if that's still too much, is if you can use weights. And obviously the more space of the weight, the bigger the end of the weight, the better. Again, this is just creating length here. Now, the only problem with that is it's an unstable base, so it can roll, all right? And particularly if you're in a plank and it suddenly starts rolling out, you don't want to be doing that. So you can use these, maybe not ideal. You can get little bars that come up and over like this that you can hold on to, which are very good for that lengthening out of the wrists. If it's all still too much, just lots of working the wrists up and down, circling, either way, all of that, okay? And then if it's still too much, always feel that you can come out of that position and coming into the forearms. When you are in forearm, try and have the hands facing forward, flat on the floor or up, whichever way that your body works for you, rather than crossing, okay? It just helps to open out in those shoulder blades at the back, rather than crossing, and then they can kind of come and wing out a little bit at the back. So hopefully those little tips and cues will help you to really find the correct alignment and the correct positioning and posture when you're coming into your strength work. And it will help with relieving some of that pain and being able to stay in those positions for longer. Before we finish, the side lying position, this is another one, this is a key one that hurts people with their shoulders. And one of the reasons why this hurts with the shoulders is there's a roll in with the shoulder here, can you see? And the same thing down here, a roll in with the shoulder. It's a collapsing of the shoulder. And that, any weight that I put onto myself now is gonna hurt me. So it's the same thing, it's getting those arrows, drawing those shoulders back. This one as well, we don't wanna keep this one in position, but then this one drops through and forward. So either on the elbow or on the hand, I'm wanting to have all of those exact same cues that I had when I was had both hands on the floor and in 4-point kneeling, which is that elbow is drawing in towards me, so it's a rotation of that elbow internally towards the body. Those arrows are drawing back and through, and so opening out in that shoulder. We are thinking about opening out in this chest, drawing in through the abdominals, shoulder blades are down the spine. So that is your key position for holding your shoulders open when you're in your side lying position. So now when I lift up, rather than sinking into that shoulder, which is going to be painful, I'm opening out, lifting up and drawing out. Okay, so that's that position. Similarly, when I'm down here, exactly the same thing, opening out, lifting up and out of that shoulder, creating space between the armpit and the chest and the arm, and lifting up. Okay, and that line stays the same. We don't want to be over here, we don't want to be out here, we want to be lifting up. This shoulder is rotated out and staying in position and alignment. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Any questions, feel free to give me an email or a direct message and I will try and help as best I can. Have a great day.